For me, the principles just it tells you what the components to that reality is. It just says these are the elements. These are the elements to reality. Thought, consciousness, mind. Those are just the elements.
Yeah.
That's it. And you can read, like you said, you can read the Bible and you can see that in a different way. And really, we all go. It's really one element. Do you know what I mean? Then when you deepen your understanding, like it's one element. Like it's God. It's universe. It's energy. Whatever you want to call it. Like it's one. We are all of one. Then that energy splits into four, our ability to create from that energy, and consciousness, our ability to be aware of that energy. And then there's a just an eternal running wisdom that connects everything that we are a part of, that's always present, that never goes anywhere. The consciousness also comes with like a space of grace, which is what I call it, like that you're always whole, complete, and perfect within this consciousness. If you rest in this awareness, then nothing on the surface can ever like move you. You might be shaken, but not stirred. That was a metaphor, right? You might be temporarily shaken, but you can never be permanently stirred. So nothing in its own external can never actually disturb your fundamental innate mental health and well-being. Not that you won't temporarily feel it, like don't get me wrong, this isn't about like having no emotions and not going through any challenges or not feeling angry or frustrated or so. It's not about that. But there's just something about like just knowing that, again, the Bible, this too shall pass, but knowing that at a deep level, then it's like, oh, well, I can go and do anything really. But it's nice to have the fear. It's great to have the illusion and then go through the illusion and then see it was an illusion. But then the game goes again. You have the illusion, you go through it, and you see it was an illusion, right? And it's just like, it doesn't stop though. That's a good thing. People think I come to understanding, so I'm never gonna, have any excitement because I'm just gonna know everything is all okay. I'm saying, bro, it don't work like that at all. Sometimes it gets even worse.
Welcome into Climbing the Summit podcast, where we talk about your personal journey to your personal summit. Today, we have my boy Dubum on from across the pond. How are you today, Dubum?
I'm well. Wonderful, bro. Wonderful.
How do I say your last name, bro?
Do you want to say it like, there's like the English way and then there's like, the Nigerian, the Igbo way.
Let me hear them both.
Menakaya would kind of just be like, general way, which is fine. But like the Igbo is Menakaya, that would be
Menakaya.
That would be like the Igbo way of saying it, yeah.
So is that your parents are from, you said Nigeria?
Yeah, my parents are from Nigeria. Our tribe is Igbo tribe. So.
What is it like, man? I didn't even know this about you. So what is it like having parents who come from the motherland?
It's bad. Wow. It's mad because when I was growing up, like they're very, very connected. You understand? When people, especially people who moved over here, so they maintained like the village connections and even just the wider community connections. So we used to go to these parties, do you know what I mean? And there was like hundreds of people there, and you call everyone auntie and uncle, and you don't even know, do you know what I'm saying? You don't even remember their name, but they call up, oh yeah, you remember me? And I'm like, oh, do you know what I mean? That's so there's just a feeling of like that connection, but then there's also a sense of like, what's your like identity? That was what it was for me, do you know what I mean? Because I was raised in this country, England, like UK, but my parents was definitely, you know what I'm saying, from Nigeria. They moved over here when they was in their, 20s or 30s or whatever it is. So they're very grounded in that. And then I didn't speak the language either, so there was like this like identity thing, where sometimes I swayed, I want to be more English, and sometimes the other way. But overall now it's just like, yeah, I'm proud to have that connection, and yeah, there's so much. Another cool thing is like there's so much like undiscovered things, in the culture, in the heritage. Like I learn more and more like every day, like especially as I talk to my mom, and it's funny, like you know your parents, but then when you like really actually listen to them, like there's so much more to them, like there's so much more to where they grew up, where they come from, what it was like for them, the way they saw life and what they experienced. So it's like through my mum, it's not only learning about her, I get to learn about this, my culture, my heritage as well. in that side too. So yeah, really interesting. I do want to learn the language one day as well. That's another thing. I'm definitely gonna put it out there. So yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. From the standpoint of, I recognize, and somebody told me this one time, and I'm dealing with kids right now, but it's like 0 to 12. You got this kid that's like this divine child almost there. The parent they got this special kind of connection. From 12 to 26, essentially, parents look dumb. So you need to have someone else that can speak to your children, because they'll listen to Joe Blow next door before they'll listen to their own parents. But at 26, for some reason, we wake up, it's like, oh man, my parents were right about so much. And that experience happened for me as well. When was it for you, man, that because you said there was a little bit of a, like, I don't want to say an identity crisis, but there was a little bit of that there. When did that flush out for you, and how did that look when you were raised, when you were coming up?
I'll tell you what, so the area I grew up, it was just outside London. It was a very like white area, kind of lower to middle class area. So immediately, like I was different, but like I fit in pretty much anywhere. But the school I went into was like right in the center of London, and it was very like, it was like a private school. Do you know what I mean? It was very, people who were very wealthy went to that school. Not everybody, but you know, it was that type of class. So I was like, where did I fit in? But for me, I was never an outsider. I knew how to like adapt, but I adapted at the cost of my own identity and speaking out, you know, because I was like, I can't say this because then I might be ostracized from the group. So, you know, I was always a nice guy, like I always had that friendly, but then I can't say that. I limit myself and hold myself back. I think where there was one moment where I don't know where it started to kind of shift, and it didn't happen in a moment. And obviously, I still went through a lot of depressive and challenging times after that. But I remember going to my grandmother's funeral, and I only met my mum's mother. My grandfather's died before I was born, and you know my dad's mother, I did meet her, but I was very very young. That's the last time when I was like 5 years old, so I don't really remember.
Yeah.
But my mom's mother, I saw again when I went to, you know, Nigeria, and it was for my grandmother's funeral. So my dad's, I'm complicating this, but my dad's mother's funeral. But obviously, it was in my grandfather's on my dad's side, and he had, you know, obviously he's passed away, but he had a library, you know. So when I'm there, like I go into the library and I'm like, I'm looking like he's got all these books and like all these things, and it's like he went to like university in like Exeter, you know, in what must be like the 50s or something like that, and he was like a professor, and he brought the curriculum, like he created when Nigeria gained independence, like he created the curriculum like for geography for the students like in the east of
What?
Nigeria, like the area, yeah, where I lived. You know what I mean? Stuff I didn't even know, and it was kind of like it felt like that's where this thing about like teaching and like helping people, I felt like a connection, you know, like to someone who I'd never met, but like that essence of like being of service. And you know, then I learned more. My mom used to tell me stories like he would go to like the village and the kids who were just running around, he would like take them off the streets and like take them to school, you know. And a lot of people, like he helped them like go
Wow.
to America and, you know what I mean, become doctors and stuff like that. Like he really like brought through like a lot of people, you know, and changed like a lot of lives, you know, like through that. So I think it was something there. I don't know, like I would just remember being in the library in that moment, like just seeing that and feeling into that. It was a very cool experience. And I think some part of my, I don't know, identity or whatever, like formed in that moment. So it was like the alignment. It was like just a sense of alignment, like this thing that I'd felt, and I'd always like talking and teaching and being a service, but I didn't really know what it meant. I'd always like reading. I didn't really know what it meant. I don't know. I can't explain it, but that was definitely that was a moment where, yeah, that identity thing started to kind of go away. So
Yeah, man, that is wicked cool to hear that the thing that you do runs not only in your blood, but it's for centuries. Y'all probably been doing this, teaching, motivating, encouraging, moving people forward through the world, helping people to wake up. I don't want to trample on or step on your story, your climb. So why don't you go ahead and tell us, man? Like, I know we hit a couple of those backstories right there, but tell us, like, what is your ultimate goal right now? What is it that you're trying to put out in the world? What is it that you want to put out in the world?
No, we're going to the top there.
Yeah, we gotta see the vision, and then we gonna build a little trail right on up there.
Yeah, for sure. You know, there's the a book called The Game of Life and How to Play It, Florence Scovel Shinn. You know,
I love that book, bro.
From the 20s. And there's
Okay.
the line in there that, like, you know, the bit about like conscious, subconscious, superconscious. And the line about, I was going to reach for it, but I can pretty much remember the line about the superconscious, the divine design. There's something that you are to do which no one else can do, something to say which only you can say. You know, there's a difference that only you can make. So my, you know, vision is I've always had like this calling, like, you know, I can be a bridge, you know, I can bring people, particularly like younger people, like into this understanding. And I remember what you're making me dig out a lot of things I don't even really talk about. Not because I don't want to, but yeah, I don't know why. It's weird, but I'll you know what I mean, I'm an open book. Like I'll say it how it is. When in 2012 or 2011, so I kind of just started reading my kind of first personal development books. And I was in this like Facebook group. I don't even know how I got into it. And it was like, you know, young people from around Europe, like young entrepreneurs and young people to do something. And there was one guy in there. He was from Estonia, and he said, he was like, there's this conference in the UK happening, like in London, and it's like Tony Robbins and like Richard Branson and Duncan Benetite is gonna be there. Do you know what I mean? Speaking as well as other people. And you know, the amount of money it cost though, it's like I couldn't like afford it. But he was like, yo, a dope way to go to events is like to volunteer. You know, if you volunteer, you get in for free, and obviously you get to be a part of it. So it's like, all right, slide. You know, I found
That's
out.
a bar. Hey, everybody out there, no matter what event it is, if you want to go to a festival, volunteer.
Trust me. That has got me into so many things. Like that's how I met Gary Vaynerchuk. I got a picture with him. Oh, like yeah, me and Gary V. I'm a sideway. I'm gonna get back to the space story, but yeah, me and Gary V. I got a picture of him. We really dapped it up. Like we was chatting for ages, maybe about 30 minutes.
What?
Because when his book Jab Jab Right Hook came out, I guess this must have been 2013, I think it was, yeah. And I was big into Gary Vee at that time. I chatted to him on video. Funny story. He was doing this thing to promote the book where people could basically jump on, like ask him a question. It was like a Q&A thing, like but on video. So you had to queue up to ask him a question. Now, because it's American time, like I'm there waiting for my turn, and it's probably about 2 a.m, right? And I'm downstairs in my house, so I finally get to ask him a question, and I'm chatting to him, kicking it, whatever. But like I don't know, I'm being loud, so my mom comes down and she's like, "What the fuck is going on?" Like, sorry.
His mom came down.
She's like, "Who are you talking to? Like, what is it?" She didn't swear. That was me. So I don't put a moment. I swear, but you know, she's like, "What is that? What's going on?" And Gary Vee could see her. He's like laughing. He's like, "Who is that?" Oh, that's my mom. He's like, "Oh, bring her on." So my mom comes and she's like, "Oh, hi," and she starts talking to him, and he's cracking up. Everyone's cracking up. So, like a few months later, he's coming to London for his book launch as part of the tour, Jab Jab Right Hook. So again, I'm like, all right, ticket. You know what I'm saying, out of my budget at the moment, but yo, let me message on Eventbrite, message the organizers. Yo, like, can I volunteer? They hit me back like, yo, slide, yeah, come through. We gotta sort the books out, get them on the desks, blah, blah, blah. So I'm doing that. I go there, organizing the books, and then Gary Vee comes like early because he's got to like sign the books and he's doing like a pre-event for people who paid like more, you know what I mean? So they can meet him more one-to-one before the kind of actual talk in the evening.
Yeah.
So after he signs the book and like kind of before the pre-event or maybe after, he just like chilling. Do you know what I mean? He's just kicking it. So me and him, like he just there and he remembered me because like, yeah, I remember that thing like with your mom, you know. So it's fine. We're chopping it up, like we're dapping it up. At the time, I wanted to start a podcast, and there was one guy called Andrew Warner, and he had this podcast. I can't remember what it was called, but he used to interview all these entrepreneurs, like people from like Barbara Cochran, Shark Tank, like all big tech entrepreneurs. And our Mixergy, that was the name of the podcast. And I was like, yo, could you connect me with Andrew Warner? And Gary was like, yeah, slide, send me the email. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'll do it. So we chopped it up. We're talking about American football, like the New York Jets. I think it was like that season was doing really
that's
well.
his
I know he's a
thing.
Jets fan. And then I was into, I'm still kind of am, but I was really into it at that time, particularly. So, dope. Chopped it up after the event. A couple of weeks later, I send him an email. You know, he don't reply. So I followed up like maybe a couple of weeks after that, and he's like, boom, he made the introduction with Andrew Warner. I met Andrew Warner. So I'm saying he interviewed me for Mixergy, and it still exists on the site, you know. Like so I'm on there with all these
What?
entrepreneurs. Like I tell you, it's no gas, bro. Like it's real things. Like really.
Bruh, there's so many things. Look, every time me and Dubin get on the phone, we just be kicking it and talking. And this is my first time asking him like real questions about his life. And he just like, he's done told me a story where he was mixing and rapping while he's going around the country of Europe. It's like, so Dubin has been a lot of places and done a lot of things. Let's get back to it, Dubin. Let's get back to it.
Yeah, let's go back. Anyway, I'm gonna send you the link to the Mixergy thing. Yeah, it's in the chat, so you know, like it's not that. Like that's the interview there. Do you know what I'm saying? You go to the site, you see like it's a thing. Like I don't guess out here. Like I'm really about that life. Like I've really been doing this since back then. But I didn't understand. Like obviously, I was unconscious. I didn't understand the way the energy was working, but just things would just happen, you know. So anyway, sorry, if I'm gassing. I can do that. Let me return back to 2011. Okay, this event happening in London. Tony Robbins, Richard Branson, Duncan Benetite. I'm like, I bet, volunteer. I email them. They say, yeah, come through. I volunteer with them for 3 days. Now this was sick, yeah, because I got to stand when the talks are happening. I got to stand like at the front, so I'm in front of people who paid like thousands of pounds to be there. Like I'm right there. Like Tony Robbins is right there. You know what I'm saying? Richard Branson is right there. And then I saw Tony Robbins, and I had this thing like, yo, I could be like the African Tony Robbins. I'm giving you the whole thing, bro. This is over.
Hey, he's got the vision.
But beyond Tony Robbins' particular style, it's more this thing like, yo, I could like be a leader, like I could bring people into this.
I could,
personal development, but obviously at that time I didn't have the grounding or the awareness, but I always knew that I had that in me. I used to call myself, I could be like a diplomat, you know, I could always go into these places and bring that back, you know? So that was kind of the thing that I pursued, but I didn't really have like a specific way of doing it. I looked into like online platforms and, you know, putting yourself out there. You know, I used to make YouTube videos and kind of write blogs, you know, inspirational stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like here and there. And it was kind of like a loose dream that I followed for many years and kind of even cultivated my life around it. Like I knew like I wouldn't work in a career, you know, like I knew that just wasn't like for me. So I would work jobs that were either kind of directly linked to, let's say, like motivation or workshops or coaching, or gave me enough flexibility to do these things, to go and do courses. So that's one of the reasons why I worked at 3, like in the phone shop for so long, was because, you know, it was very flexible and I always got in with my managers. So I say, you know what, I want to do this course at the weekend. Like, Slide, can I'll work late that week. I'll work, like, I create it to make it work for me. Do you know what I mean? I enroll them. This is stuff I was learning
Exactly.
at the
Yeah.
courses I was doing. Like, I enrolled them in the possibility. I ran the team meeting once and brought those exercises like into there, like, yeah, listening exercises and all. You know what I mean? So that was my mentality, was like, how can I make this work not just for me but for everybody? And again, I didn't really understand. I had the understanding at the time of what I understood. I just knew that that was, the thing. So that kind of African Tony Robbins, but just the general, like, at least I wrote it in my diary, everything. 2011, I was gas. That has been the thing. I just felt like, and the more courses I started to do, like I did landmarks, or some people would have heard of that. I did counseling, psychotherapies, and I did 100 hours myself, and then I studied for a foundation, in it. And, well, 12-step recovery is not really a course, but, just being in a room, silent meditation. And then obviously, the three principles, like transformative coaching. Like, the more I was in it, the more I was seeing, like, there's no one who really, like, looks like me, who's really doing this, you know. There's not that many. But on this side in the UK, like in London, and you know what I mean, there's a few
Yeah.
of us, you know what I'm saying, out here, but in the US, but even still, like,
Yeah.
we're not like the plurality by far. So I was working in a job center since 2 years ago, when I kind of come into the principles understanding, discover Michael, and then just started coaching. It was a mad journey. But I was at work and I was telling one of my colleagues, her name's Rav, lovely lady, and she was like, "Oh, I've got a friend, who's a coach. He's a great guy to connect you." And I was like, "All right, dope, let's connect." So I connected, and this is Mark. And then obviously I'm telling him, principles transforming. He's like, "Yeah, I went to the conference. I was at the 3P UK conference." I was like, "Oh my God." So it's not only is he a coach, you know what I mean? He's literally coming from, it was bad. Like, it was bad. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's mad.
We'll get into the synchronicities, man. We're gonna get, because that is part of the game, right? Like, once you start climbing that summit, once you know where you're going, once you decide you're gonna be the Black Tony Robbins, things start happening whether we know it or not. And like you were saying, you may not have been conscious of it early on.
Mm.
But now it's beautiful to see how you can kind of sort of connect those dots. So I'm gonna let you keep on connecting those dots for us, bro.
Yeah, I feel like once that whole thing in 2011, and also it was like the thing with my grandfather as well. Like I said, like seeing all of those things, and like, yo, I'm, a teacher, or whatever, coach, whatever. Like, that's in me to. I had it as, uh, create the space uh, for people to make the difference only they can make. Something like that. Unleash themselves into the world so they can make the difference only they can make. And even doing like landmark, I tell you this. So this is a big part of my story as well. 2015. Um, do you want to hear another synchronicity? It's funny what I took, because I remember all these moments, but it's crazy. It's crazy. So I feel like from that early 2010s to kind of now, or for sure like 2 years ago, it was like the hero's journey. Like, I really went to like some very, very low places, you know. But what that brought me, it made me, it didn't make me, but like, it opened a space for me to go into these different courses, into these different environments, therapy, recovery, like landmark. It was really like my training ground, but I didn't understand it at the time. And things would open up, and I just follow the next thing to the next thing. So 2015 rolls around, at this time I'd just been like reading books and stuff like that, putting a couple of videos out there, nothing serious. And one day I wanted to do, but I wanted to do like events. I had kind of had this thing. I want to do an event. So I go to this kind of networking event one day, and I meet this lady. Her name is Nadu, and she's like, she teaches young people how to do events. Like, she's an event kind of manager herself, and she teaches young people how to do events. So I was like, all right, dope. Like, yo, let's connect. And she's like, I've got this course going on. Like, it's already started, so you can't really join, but you can just come and like sit in the class and whatever. And I was like, dope. So I would go
Nice.
there and just sit in the class with them. And then their kind of graduation thing was they were going to run their own event as a group. They were going to create an event which was going to give awards to people who'd previously done this course, and they would have like a panel of kind of young entrepreneurs as well. So I was like, yeah, I can help because I know a couple, people from being in the scene and the young entrepreneur scene as whatever, a couple of my friends. I said, yeah, I can invite them to come and speak. She was like, great. I can come to that event. So So I go to this event, the graduation event, and I go into this room there, and there's a lady, and her name is Sarah, and she works in the venue where the event is being held. And we have this like really like dope conversation, and she says, I want to run. I'm going to create this program for young people, you know, to help them write books or to bring kind of personal development like to young people. Do you know what I mean? From in this area, like urban area, who wouldn't have access to this type of stuff or even be aware of it, whether just financially or whether just they wouldn't even come in contact with it, because she'd done Landmark, the course I've mentioned before. She'd done it and she'd done programs on it and stuff. So that was in September 2014. And she was like, yeah, I'll send you an email, whatever. I was like, all right, cool. She sent me the email. I'd never replied to it. Like I was going through my stuff in life, whatever, I didn't reply to it. So fast forward to January 2015. I get this call. I'm kind of going through again a bit of a rough time. I get this call from my friend Kathy. And she's like, yo, I'm doing this free personal development course this weekend. Like, it's for young people. People say this lady, Sarah, she's amazing. And I'm like, bro, if I want to clean my room, I'm not trying to do no more courses and whatever. Like, I'm kind of out of love with the game in this moment. But I said to her, I actually said to her, she didn't say her name, Sarah. I asked her, I said, is this lady's name Sarah who's doing the thing? And she was like, yeah. And for me, it was like, wow, like this lady said she was gonna do it like in September, and she's actually like doing it. You know
She's
what I mean?
doing it. Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go to like DAP and show love. I'm thinking like, I don't really care about the cause. I just want to go and say like, wow, it's really cool that you did it,
Yeah.
So I called my guy Trent. That's one of my best friends, but I said, yo, Trent, come, get in the whip. Like, we're gonna go to South London and go do this thing. But that weekend, like I say, it kind of like saved my life, like because it changed a lot. Because it went from like the experience of personal development, like in books, to like actually experiencing for myself what now I come to see was like real true insights, on the nature of thoughts, on the nature of thinking. Like
What you hear?
it was so she kind of broke down in essence what we do, but she broke it down in a way for like young people, right? So we had this thing called like meaning making. So it was like two circles, like a Venn diagram. You got two circles, right? And it's like on one circle, it's like what happened, and in the other circle, it's like the meaning that you made out of it. And then when the circles overlap, like it's the drama, right? So I gave this example on the second day of the course. I went to church with my mum in the morning, and she was like, sit up straight or something. Maybe I was lying back or something. She was like, sit up straight. So that's what happened. But the meaning I made of it, I was my mum always telling me what to do. Like she won't leave me alone. Like it's bad. I'm here in church. Like what more does she want from me? And then Sarah was like, well, she might just want other people to her son to see her son the way that she sees her. Do you know what I mean? To you to represent yourself for who you truly are. Do you know what I'm saying? And to like it just that little flip, rather than no, she's not telling me what to do. Actually, she's showing love. Do you know what I'm saying? Like just that very simple thing, and that's applicable to any situation, right? It's like, oh, my girlfriend doesn't call me, oh, well, she doesn't like me, she's cheating on me, blah blah blah, or maybe she's just busy. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe she's going through her own situations in life. Do you know what I'm saying? Or what?
Bro, I've been going through that, bro. I go through that sometimes. Where it's like, you sitting there, you just sitting there, and you're like, man, I know she got her phone in her hand. How come she ain't sending me no message? I always have to look at myself whenever that happens. But yeah, keep going, bro.
But that's it. Like it was like, wow, like this is the inside. Obviously, I come to know it. Like this is the inside out. It was just truth. It was just truth. We don't have to put any labels on it. It was just truth. And this is like we're talking about, rowdy kind of young people, do you know what I mean, from areas of London, honestly, but very, very cool, man, and like 18 to like 30, and she's there like coaching everybody on some like real life stuff. And I was like, wow. I said, I don't like, I want to just be a part of this. You know, I want to just be involved. And, I wrote her some ideas and she told me, like, she's like, you're not ready. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because I felt it, but she's like, no, you're not ready to like, to be in this position of leadership. You have to go through the process. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh,
so as I was there, we would have sessions like every week, in City Hall, which is like where the London mayor is. We used to see Boris Johnson, do you know what I mean, come in on his bike because he was mayor of London at that time. And then we did this course called like What If I Cared? What if we cared? And it's like we had to meet every week and we had to help one of the participants who was in foster care, like help her like kind of get housing in London. And it was just this whole thing. And then the last course was like, what if we wrote a book where it's like you find a topic you love and then you invite other people to write, letters about that subject. And then you put it into a book and release it on Amazon. We did a book launch, like mine was called Letters of Friendship, which is still available. Do you know what I'm saying? On Amazon, I got maybe like I asked 30 to 40 people to write letters about what friendship meant in their life, and people wrote poems, and it was just real like this is like yes, in the moment. Do you know what I mean? Like this is real personal development. It's not theoretical. This is transformation, like in the moment, like coming from a way of being. And as well, I would when I would go to sessions every week, you know, Sarah kind of said something to me about like I think you're like an addict. I can't remember the word she used, but like I had like addiction issues, right, with like gambling particularly, at that time, as well as like weed, but the gambling was much more the major thing. And that's when I actually during that period I went into like, 12-step recovery, and then at the same time Sarah, so she'd done Landmark and I was aware for it, but their courses was hundreds of pounds, which obviously being in the game now I know is actually really not that expensive, but for someone who had like no money, like it was just something which I wouldn't even think to do. But then one day, like she called me and she was like, "Yeah, do you want to do like Landmark on Friday?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Do you know what I mean? So I went and did like was the Landmark Forum. Me and another young lady who was part of the program too. And what I would come to find out years later is that her and Susan Ryback, who was a self-expression and leadership program leader with Landmark, that they had like paid for us to do the course like, so they paid, for me and her to do it. And so it was like, do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know that at the time. I could have kind of should have realized. I just didn't. And because it was like they saw something in me. Do you know what I mean? They saw something
yeah.
that like I would go the distance. I don't know what it is, but like he will do it. And obviously, Andrea Ryan's her name. Like they will do it. Like and there's a leadership in them. I don't know what it was. So for me, I always carried that as well. At first, I kind of carried it as a bit of a burden because, like, man, like I should be doing more. Like people have like believed in me and invested in me, but it's transformed to be like I carry it as a great responsibility with love. Like there's this thing about who is it? I think Billie Jean King said pressure is a privilege. And for me, it's not pressure because I know pressure is only created from inside out. But like, wow, like I've been put into these positions. When you talk about synchronicities, I've been put into these positions to access something like the best personal development training like in the world when I had no money. Do you know what I mean? And I didn't even live in London. I didn't even live around them. I wasn't even from their area. I met Sarah just in this basement. Do you know what I mean? At this
Hey,
event.
it was when
Like,
you wrote down African Tony Robbins, all these things lined up, bro. That's what happened. But no, I can't express how beautiful hearing these synchronicities each and every step along the way, along the journey. And kind of like you, bro, like I've been offered free things as well, and then seen them as like me going in the room and being like, I don't even know how I got in the room. And it was lucky, right? Michael Neal, I'm in the room. I'm literally sitting in Michael's house with 6 other people. And I'm talking, I'm doing whatever. And everybody is like, Danny, like, you're supposed to be in this room, kind of like you, man. Is that moment that I recognize that, oh, like these people see something in me. I could either keep doing what I'm doing, which is like basically poo-pooing on what they're saying, or I could take that energy that they're using, what they're saying, unaware of why, and utilize that to say, oh man, I really am supposed to be here. Oh man, I really am supposed to push forward. I really, this is where I'm meant to be. Yeah, man. Yeah, you still going with the story? I got plenty of questions, so we'll wait on that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when I was doing and I went on to do pretty much all the landmark courses, there's maybe like 6, 7 or so leadership, ILP, which I didn't finish, but the communication courses, Power to Create, I can't remember the other one. The self-expression and leadership program, which I went on to coach on like twice as like a volunteer. And that was my first kind of sampling of coaching, but it was very different. You had to coach from the distinctions they would teach every week. And the distinctions were such things as like commitment versus attachment, and speaking into a yes. Do you know what I mean? Speaking into a no. What else? Like the leadership triangle, enrollment, requests, like these things. I mean, like if people know like what landmark is and like the people who have done it, it's kind of like the thing which you don't need to do, but the much top level people who have done it at some point in time, who have been through it or at least are aware of it and know like I didn't understand it's a big thing. I'm not like, I appreciate my time there, but obviously you grow, develop and evolve, but definitely in the performance side, like it was like some high level ish. So as I was doing the coaching, it was really like I was really starting to see like, wow, like I kind of get this stuff like at a real deep level because I love the game. I really like love this game. And what I was doing, like people don't know, like, and it's not to like, it's for me, I say it to like celebrate myself. Like, yo, I didn't have a car. Like, that's nobody's fault. Like, it was my fault. Like, not my fault. It was my responsibility. But it is what it is. I didn't have a car. I had very little money. I had to pay for the train. Like, I was getting on the train from here to London, like hour 15, hour 30 minutes.
Wow.
Like I would do that. Like, yeah, every week. Do you know what I'm saying? Like by myself. Like get home at like 11:30. Like go to work and like I was really like really grinding out here, but it wasn't grind for me. It was the love. I loved this game so much, and I can't put it into words. And I kind of fast forward a little bit because after doing landmark, I started more going into the spiritual side. So again, like just where I got into recovery, started working for sponsor. I was in recovery at the time, but I started working for sponsor. Connecting with my higher power, understanding what that meant to me. But again, he lived in like West London, like the complete opposite side of London. He'd be like, yo, meet me at like 8:30. So I have to wake up at 5:30. Do you know what I mean? Get on the train and go meet him. Do you know what I mean? Like I could put the work in, like I could show up, like I would put the reps in. And I loved it. And it was as I was going through all of this, I was like, I have something, but I didn't know. And again, therapy as well. Likewise, I had to go to like Northwest London to do that. Do you know what I mean? Hour 15 minutes, hour 30 minutes, like every week, do my sessions. And then when I started actually training for a foundation. So a foundation basically is like kind of what you have to do. And then you can decide if you actually want to do the 4 or 5 year training to become like a psychotherapist. So it's like an overview sort of thing of things that you'd be actually learning. Um, and I started doing that 2020. And what happened was obviously in 2020, I did it for 3 months. It was amazing. And then COVID happened. And then I kind of things just kind of like unraveled again. And I just lost my structure. And I kind of say, I just fell out of love with the game. I started looking at my life and being like, you've been doing all these courses, particularly from since 2015. It's 2020. I was pretty down on myself. Like, you're still working, do you know what I mean, in the phone shop. I had another job in between that as a youth program manager, but I was let go from that job. Like what kind of questioning myself, like what are you doing with yourself? Now you've got all this time, like you're not even really doing anything. And I was like, you know what, I might as well just go and get like a proper job. Do you know what I mean? Again, get a 9 to 5, whatever. And at the time, the job center, is what we call it in our country. So it's where people people go, there's a benefit we have called universal credit, which is not just for people who are unemployed, but people who are like maybe mothers and, do you know what I mean? Or maybe they're underemployed. So they have a job, but they're not earning enough and whatever, they receive that. And when you're a work coach, you work primarily with the people who are unemployed. You see them more regularly, but you also see the other people, check in with them, do you know what I mean? Help them, connect them to resources, maybe help them like write CVs or just be there for them, you know? And I was like, okay, let me apply for that job. Because it's COVID, they're hiring a lot of people because they think a lot of people is going to be unemployed, you know? So I'm like, okay, I feel like I can do this. I applied for it and they put me on a reserve list. And I was like, oh, this is dead, bro. 2021, January, I'm on the reserve list. I'm going to have to go back to 3. Like, this is dead out. Do you know what I mean? Like, I really don't want to go back to this job. I've learned what I needed to learn here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then they called me back in February and they was like, oh, we seen you live in Essex. We got some positions out there. I'm like, all right, bet. Let's do it, man. So they gave me 5 options. The options that I wanted, which would have been very more accessible for me to get to on my train line, which would be 30, 40 minutes away, they didn't have. They had one option of Chelmsford, which is in Essex, but it's like a 2-hour bus ride. So
wow, okay, that's even worse.
Yeah, so it's either you get the train into London and come out, which is like 25 quid, and it's still about an hour and a half, or you get like a 2-hour bus ride. So I was on the call with this lady, she's telling me this, and she's like, but you can wait, something else might come up. But something in me was just like, no, just take it. Like, you'll figure it out. I can't explain it. Just take it, you'll figure it out. Don't worry. And I was like, I told her, I'm taking it. Boom. So I take this job, right? I start in March. And like I said, by this time I'm out, it's COVID, you know, I'm out of love with the game, personal development. It's cool, but I'm not even really, you know, messing with it too much. I'm just gonna go to work. But you know, it's that thing that just keeps calling you back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I see as I'm starting the job, I'm thinking, oh, you know, maybe I could check out. There's this organization called Alternatives, and they do like kind of talks and spiritual talks in London or whatever. And I rarely, if ever, check their email. But I was like, let me check their email. I checked their email, and there's this guy called Michael Neal doing this 3-part course on Zoom called A Whole New Way of Thinking About Changing Your Life. Now, you've heard the story. Obviously, I've been thinking about changing my life for quite a long time, right? But I'm like, I've been in the game. I know names. I said, I've never heard of this guy. Like, who's this guy, bro? Like,
out of nowhere, yep.
I never heard of him. But I'm like, I'm getting the feeling, but I'm like, yo, but this course, I'm reading about the 3 parts. I'm like, oh, this is fire. This looks fire, but it's £100. So I said, all right, bet. Before I buy it, yo, let me buy his book. So you know what I mean, or 1 or 2 of them, so I can feel into it. You know,
let me
pay £10 versus paying 100. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And now as well, I got this 2-hour bus ride. It's just like I got time. I got 4 hours a day. We ain't
perfect.
Easy. So The Space Within was the first book. I'm on the bus. I'm listening to it. And I'm like, oh my days. That was it. This is it. This has been it the whole time. Like, I remember I was doing like The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, going through that course all the time. And she said something about like a completion. You know, it's not that it dismisses all the other things, but it was like the completion of the learning, right? And there's still obviously there's infinite levels, but that's just the best way I could put it. It brought together all those different things that I'd been doing, and I just saw it, and it's like, this ain't nothing new. Like, this ain't no dope new idea, new technique. Like,
this is, bro, what you saying about the completion, it bringing something about that, whoever, like, this is, Michael ain't paying me not a red cent. But what he did do for me was he unlocked spirituality for me. Now I read the Bible and I understand what they're trying to say.
It's a whole different experience,
right? I read the Quran. I read the Tao. I go to a coaching seminar. I understand what I'm. It's like man. Keep going, man. It's good. Keep going.
Trust me. And you know what? I remember it wasn't even the first line was actually the forward, where it hit me. And that was written by Dr. Robert Holden, who I've had the pleasure to actually meet. And it was just a line. I remember the line. It said, if you put down the book that's entitled like My Mind, you can look up and you can see a whole library of possibilities. And you can even read the thoughts of God, something to that extent. And it was like, wow, like nothing is fixed. Like this whole thing that I think is like if I can put that down and there's a whole library of possibilities available in any situation. It was like, man, I got the feeling, I say it was like the Matrix, like Neo jump saying I saw the numbers. I was like, oh my days. Like this is wild. Now, of course, I went on to then pay that £100. That's like needless to say. I
Worth
slid
it.
that. I said, "Yo, take my money out right now." Even tripping.
He said, "Here's my money, sir. This is easy money."
And that course, and then again, that course, mind blowing, like amazing. It was incredible. I still have the recordings because they sent them out to us. But like, there was the one story he told. I remember, I think it was on the first session, and he was like, there was a guy in California who he like lived in the hills. He was in this tribe or something, and he'd come down from the hills, and like university professors used to take him to different universities to do talks and whatever, because obviously he came from a very tribal whatever thing. So one day they're about to get the train, and he like hides behind the pillar, or something like that, and everyone's the guys looking around like, where is he, where is he? But eventually, like he comes out and he gets on the train, and they asked him like, why did you hide behind the train? He's like, well, when I was in my tribe, when we were living there, we would look down and we would see these trains, and we'd think they're like dragons or something like that. You know what I mean? Or fire breathing like demons, or just something like that. To be afraid of. So they were like, well, if you like thought that, then why did you come out? And he said, in my life, I've learned it's better to be curious than afraid.
Bruh. That's a mic drop right there. Man, it's very interesting hearing, like, because I have my own, understanding, my own view of Michael, my own view of what's going on. And then to hear how, like, your story to getting to this point currently, where it wasn't that it was a hard, arduous road or anything like that, but there were twists, there were turns, there were obstacles, there were things that were going up and down, in and out. And the fact that you, right as you were about to like throw in the towel, you're like, all right, man, I think it's about that time. Wisdom kicked in. Whatever that is, shows you in the moment where you got just enough time to do exactly what you need. And it looked like you didn't even need the whole book. Sound like you just need the beginning. You need the first couple sentences. But here we are. Like, so now that you because I wrote down on here, what do you see the difference between landmark and like the principles, the understanding? I also wrote down, what is the understanding in your opinion? So like it's all kinds of questions.
Well, I feel like it's the same thing, but just said in a different way. But for me, the principles is just the simplest way, I would say. Because landmark it adds in those kind of performance element, those distinctions around like integrity, being your word, enrollment, leadership. It's more into the form, right? Now, but the essence of landmark is like everything is nothing. Like you are making the meaning of your life. Like all these things is just what you're creating. And I remember leaving the landmark forum on the final day, and it was this weird like zen I was in on the tube, and I was just like laughing. It's like, oh my god, like we're all in separate realities. Like we're all creating our own reality. Like right now, it's like I could just go up and scream. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, why not? It was mad. And for me, the principles just it tells you what the components to that reality is. it just says these are the elements. These are the elements to reality: thought, consciousness, mind. Those are just the elements.
Yeah.
That's it. And you can read, like you said, you can read the Bible and you can see that in a different way. And really, we all go. It's really one element. Do you know what I mean? Then when you deepen your understanding, like it's one element. Like it's God, it's universe, it's energy, whatever you want to call it. Like it's one. We are all of one energy, but we have then that energy splits into four: our ability to create from that energy, and consciousness, our ability to be aware of that energy. And then there's a just an eternal running wisdom that connects everything that we are a part of, that's always present, that never goes anywhere, and then the consciousness also comes with like a space of grace, which is what I call it. Like that you're always whole, complete, and perfect within this consciousness. If you rest in this awareness, then nothing on the surface can ever like move you. You might be you might be shaken but not stirred. That was a
Yeah,
metaphor,
yeah.
right? You might be temporarily shaken, but you can never be permanently stirred. So nothing in its own external can never actually disturb your fundamental, innate mental health and well-being. Like, not that you won't temporarily feel it. Like, don't get me wrong. This isn't about like having no emotions and not going through any challenges or not feeling angry or frustrated or so. It's not about that. But there's just something about like just knowing that again, the Bible, this too shall pass. Like, but knowing that at a deep level, then it's like, oh, well, I can go and do anything really. But it's nice to have the fear, because that's it's great to have the illusion and then go through the illusion and then see it was an illusion. But then the game goes again. You have the illusion, you go through it, and you see it was an illusion, right? And it's just like it doesn't stop though. That's a good thing. People think I come to understanding, so I'm never gonna, have any excitement, because everything I'm just gonna know everything is all okay. I'm saying, bro, it don't work like that at all. Sometimes
Not
it gets
at
even
all.
worse.
Bruh, and for the first little bit, it definitely did get a little worse for me, man. No, I mean, like honestly, okay. This is how I put it. I'm about to endeavor into this thing called 75 Hard, which is just like fitness slash all kinds of things. It's really a mental fortitude kind of challenge where for 75 days, you work out twice a day for 45 minutes. One time has to be outside. You have to read 10 pages a day, track your nutrition. You have to post a picture of yourself, a progress picture of yourself. And then you cannot have any alcohol, no cheat meals for 75 days. Guys, like it's designed that way because it's going to rain. And you're going to have to ask yourself whether you're going to go out there and do it or not. You're going to have days where you're not going to want to eat well, but you still got to do it. Oh, and you have to drink a gallon of water a day. He's like, there'll be days where you're not going to want to drink a gallon of water, but you still got to do it, or else you got to start this challenge over. And what's interesting about the challenge and what you're saying is he's like, you'll start off, you'll do really good, and then you'll kind of not do good, and then you do really, really good, and then you go to really bad, and then it'll be over. And I thought that was really interesting because I was looking at my climb to my summit, hearing your climb to your summit, and hearing how it's like, the motivation's easy when you're starting off. Anything new, the motivation's like, oh yeah, let's go, let's get it. And then once you're on that trail, we run into thoughts, we run into obstacles in the form of thought. And so we slow down. And then, yeah.
I just want to say, because one of the big things that the understanding the principles gave me was like effortless change. Like,
yeah, speak to that.
Like, for example, on that, I smoked for like 16 years. I started smoking as a teenager, thinking, obviously I'm not going to be doing this for long. I didn't even really like smoking. Like, I was smoking weed at first, and I just started smoking cigarettes. And then, boom, I'm like 31, whatever. I'm still smoking, and I'd quit like for a few months, and whatever. But that final day, or maybe the day before, of the course of my canoe, I just knew this is the last time I'm ever going to smoke. And that's 2021, and I never smoked again. Not even, there was no like temptation either. It wasn't like, oh, I have to go through, do you know what I mean, these weeks of, you're gonna have to go through the weeks of struggle, and what it was like, literally like, oh no, it's over, you know. That was just it. Like the insight. Like when you have an insight and you actually I see, and you go to a new level. Like I just know, like, oh no, this is how I'm not. I don't have to fake it. I don't have to. Do you know what I mean? Like try hard and grind it out. Or like it just happens. Just like with coaching. You know, like I didn't even. I didn't listen to Michael. Like, oh, I want to be a coach. Like I just followed like guidance, and I tell people a story because it's true. I was at work one day. I think it was like a week after the course, and I was speaking to this lady, colleague. Never spoke to her before. I was just walking down the hall singing Radio Gaga. Even remember the song, Queen, David Bowie, and she's like, "Oh, you got a nice voice." And I was like, "That's really nice for her to say." And then we just started chatting. Her name was Claire. Lovely, and we had chatted for like 45 minutes, and she told me a lot of like really deep things, about her life in that moment. And then this thought came to me, like you could be like a creative coach, you know, like people like talking to you about ideas, you like holding space. And I'd thought about it before as well. Like again, the divine design, it flashed before my mind before, but it didn't, I just didn't understand it, didn't take it seriously at all. But now it's like, oh, this is just wisdom. I just know this is wisdom, insight. Okay, let me go Google creative coaching, whatever schools. Then I found this one school called Animas, signed up with them. Then I found out, oh, Michael Neal like wrote this book, Super Coach. And at the end of Super Coach, he's like, yeah, I've got this thing, Super Coach Cafe. I say, all right, boom, let me Google that. Signed up to that. I start coaching kind of in the Animas style, which was transformational, but obviously it wasn't like fully grounded in the principles. And I'm like, this is cool, but I want to do it like this way. I want to learn from Michael. So I joined Super Coach. And then it's like, boom, I found another school called ICC Insight Coaching Community, amazing coaching school. So by the end of that year, when I started, I've done like hundreds of hours of coaching, like on Zoom, and obviously I'm doing it in work. And it was like effortless. Like I would tell people, they're like, what you doing? I'm like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing that. They're like, how are you doing all these things? I'm like, I don't know. Like, but it doesn't feel like work. Don't get me wrong. I would get tired just because it was shutting it down was the issue. But when I was in it, like it was just flowing. It was just flowing. And I've had that experience again, like recently, you know, where you've seen me, like I've just been going to these events, and I've started doing like, poetry, started performing on stage, you know what I mean? And started me and it's just flowing. I've been in the gym, for like the last 3 weeks or so, just 5 days a week. Like, no, I have to, and before that, of course I knew I wanted to be in the gym, but I wasn't because I was trying to, and what I understand, I'm trying to change in form, where it's like the change happens in the formless. It happens, do you know what I mean? When you understand, when you have a new level of understanding of thought, or when you drop into a deeper feeling, and you have those insights, and you don't need to force it. Like it, change is always, there's this thing like change is always happening. It's just we block it, we get in the way of it. So it's not like I need to make it happen. It's like you just need to allow it to happen. You just need to open up to it. And if you're not, like, it's okay. You're better off just eating burgers and chilling and not beating yourself up about it. Because paradoxically, the more you do that, you'll just naturally be like, oh, this doesn't really make sense anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it
bro,
will
I
be
know
very
exactly what
obvious
you
what the
mean.
next thing is,
Yeah, the next thing will make so much more sense. And it sounds like super I don't even know how it's going to sound to y'all out there, but honestly and truthfully, there's something beautiful about the experience of following the next breadcrumb and the moment that it sounds like the moment you woke up to, but also me and any guest that I've interviewed, the moment we woke up to the fact that I'm not going after the pot of gold at the top of the mountain, but I'm actually climbing these steps. And like each step has this beautiful, like ornate beauty to it. And if I can pick up on each one of these steps, I don't ever have to make it to the top of the mountain. But here's what's crazy. We always do. And it's always after the fact that we see that we already passed the mountain we thought we were supposed to be climbing.
A long time ago. Like, that's the insight I had recently, because I'd been thinking about coaching and, do you know what I mean? I have the clients, and it was a challenge. And I was looking back, I was like, I've been doing this for like 11 months, like self-employed. I've been coaching. The thing about crossing the Rubicon, right? Like, I crossed that a long time ago. Like, that was, I've committed to this that's long gone. Like that conversation is that's way back. You know, I'm not even 2 years ago. I mean, 2011. Do you know what I mean? Tony, like, because it's not me. Like, it's
Yeah.
not me. Like,
Yeah.
there's a guidance that is guiding me clearly. This is, you know what I mean? I get to be a part of it. Don't get me wrong, and I'm here, and I am of the same energy, but something is living through me. There is an energy clearly living through me and guiding me because I could never have chose any of these things, even if I thought in my wildest dreams, you know. So when I just surrender to whatever that guidance is, you know, and I don't question it, I just start to say, you know, I'm a soldier. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I start to really, I understand surrender on a different level now. And of course, there's always more to see, but I'm very grateful to this, like, yo, God, where do you want me to go? All right. Aye. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not questioning orders. I'm not trying to fight. I want to do aye, Captain. All right, General.
I tell this story all the time. I get out of Super Coach Academy. I don't know what's necessarily changed. I know that my whole life has changed. And the thing that I recognized was like, oh, I no longer have to fight with my wife about getting better. I don't have to fight with her about personal development. All I have to do is be present, be aware, and let this thing roll and just be
Mm,
myself. And so,
mm,
like, yes, I think maybe the answer is what you just said. Maybe it is this, it's still going on. It still happens. It's still, I'm a human being.
yeah,
So maybe that is the answer to that question.
yeah. That pretty much is. But like you said, there's just there's a different level of understanding with it, you know, and just bringing it back to the simplicity. Like this was one of the kind of insights that I had early on in the principles, like coming to this understanding was like, you know, if we are all one, right, we're all of the same energy. That if I change myself, then by that in itself, that has to have a ripple effect into everybody else and into everything else. Like it just has to. Like if I come to a different level of understanding and my being and actually living into these things and following this guidance and just one step at a time and I just live and I'm grateful and I'm just enjoying this place. If I am being that, right, then that will just change everything. It just does. You know, there's the quote by Howard Thurman where it's like, don't ask don't ask how you can change the world. Like see how you can come alive because what changes the world is people who have come alive. So it actually makes things very, very simple. It's just how do you show up for yourself even more? What are you being called to do? Because everyone has it, everyone knows it. Like there's that thing that they know to do, or there's a guidance, but for whatever, you know, fearful thinking or limitation, but like, do you know what I mean? So, but if you just allow that to come through, you know, the curiosity over fear. It's better to be curious than to be afraid. Like what would really happen if I did this? You know, or feeling like is that coming from, you know, a place of just calling, or is that coming from just me trying to prove something? You know, because the feeling is so good at guiding you, because you can tell I'm tight. I'm trying to prove something. I'm trying to rush. I'm kind of sliding. I'm doing my habitual way of being. You know, we all have our habitual ways of being. Or am I just, I'm just relaxed. I'm nice. I'm easy. I'm flowing. I'm just grateful. I'm like, all right, cool. It's blessed. Like I'm not, you know, I'm patient. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Like easy with it. That's the guide. The guidance is there, and that's from looking within, man. So yeah.
Man, Dubum, I appreciate you stopping in, bro, telling us a little bit about your story, a little bit about who you are, your personal climb, your personal journey towards becoming that African Tony Robbins, which
Yeah,
I
yeah.
fully
I don't
think you're
want to.
going to be there.
I don't want to. Yeah, but like, let's say that African Tony Robbins. Like, respectfully, you know, what I'm saying, I shout to my, but I'm me. Like, I'm Duba Menakaya. Like, I'm the best. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm the guy. So, respectfully, like, I ain't disrespecting nobody, but like, that man can't do what I do. They're not me. They don't walk the way I talk. They don't move the way I move. Like, respectfully, you know what I mean? So, and that's what you were saying. Like, yo, coming into yourself and really when that change happened is when I started to look like, wow, look at the places that I've been to. Like, look at the people that I've met. Like, look at the type of conversations that I've been involved in. And then look at, like, I'm meeting Michael Neal, Steve Hardison, Marianne Williamson, and they're dapping me up, saying like, oh, yo, yeah, I see you. Okay, I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, you know that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's different over here, you know? So, like, that's why I've really come into my, like, yeah, no, I am. I'm the best. Like, I'm looking around. There ain't nobody around me, bruv. Like, that's the way I really feel in this game. And it's not even me. I sometimes do get into my ego about it. Don't get me wrong. It's not even me. Like, this is God given. Like, don't look at me. Like, all these things I told you, all these stuff, like, this is God given. And what's in me is in you. Like, what's guiding me is guiding you. Like, trust me, it's in there. Like, for sure. So yeah, just don't rush it, man. Be grateful, like, for every step of the journey. I'll finish with just one thing because this really helped me. Sid Banks said, you know, be grateful, but people make the mistake, like, they try and see above the level that they're at, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not to look down, but like be grateful for wherever you're at, because there's always something to be appreciated for who you are, what you're learning, what you're discovering. And paradoxically, like, without doing it as a strategy, that kind of unlocks the next level, like, weirdly enough, like,
Some weird way.
some weird way, like, it just, and you're like, oh, and you see it from a different level. But when you try and do it, and there's a trap, like, I've fallen into so much, and when I try and do it, that's what it is. But when I'm grateful, like, wow, like, I like to think everybody should, look at their life like a movie, like an adventure, like, wow, I never could have planned that. And look what I've done, look what I've accomplished, and look at the difference that I've made in people's lives, and look why I really stepped into the unknown without knowing it. And I'm talking about, mothers, parents, entrepreneurs, like, whoever, man, like, musicians, artists, like, wow, like, you've got that in you. It's always been there. This isn't something that you need to go and change to find that. If you just look back at your life, you've always had that in there, and you can find those moments where guidance was guiding you without you even knowing it, and you explored like a whole new land. So, just look to that, like, it's always there, and it will always be there. So yeah.
Man, what an amazing journey to now that you are experiencing, and to know that just not me, but whoever is out there in podcast land, you out there on your personal climb, on your personal journey, you're gonna run into these obstacles, you're gonna run into these challenges. But like he said, it's already inside of you. You know what to do, you know how to do it. You just have to put down the book of ego so you could see the library that is in front of you. Man, Dubam, I appreciate you sharing your personal journey, your personal story. Is there anything that you want the people to know? Email, not email, but social media. Anyway, I'm gonna put it all in the show notes. But is there any programs you're running?
Yeah, I mean, I'm live with my messages on Instagram, on LinkedIn. Instagram, Dubam Creative Coach. LinkedIn, just Dubam Menakaya. Danny DC is going to put that for you. My website is being refreshed at the moment, but obviously by the time this comes out, it'll probably be up and running. Like, listen, I'm really like that, bro. Just contact me, man. Like, just send me a message if you want to chat, whatever you want to reflect, just connect. Like, just shoot me a message. In terms of programs, I run an event every 2 weeks for free called Fresh Start Sundays. So it's an inspiring way to, connect with people all over the world and kind of get clear and just rest in that inspiration for you starting your week, because, I always say, I want to plan my week, I want to plan my week, but there's something about being with other people and being in that space of, a fresh start. And, if you drop in the thinking about why you can't do something and having that fresh start. So I do that every 2 weeks on Sunday. Again, you can find out on my Instagram page, the link to those events. And yeah, I see one-to-one, do you know what I mean? Coaching, is my thing. And I'm kind of working on a new title, I mean, as a just do it coach. Speaking to Debbie, you know Debbie, she said, you're trying it out because, like, that's I help people, do the things that they know to do, but they're not doing. And I help them also understand why they're not doing it, like, so if that's something that appeals to you and you would like to make movement in a certain area of your life, again, just give me a message and yeah, holla at your boy.
Yes, Dubum. Appreciate you. Keep climbing towards your personal summit.